The Tennessee Volunteers offense is one of the more unique offenses in college football. They put their wide receivers out so far towards the sidelines, which opens up plays across the middle of the field in both the passing game, but the run game as well gets really opened up. When the pass game wasn't working for Tennessee, which unfortunately was quite often this year, they were forced to run the football, and they have gotten really great production on the ground each of the last 2 years. Last year, I was a big fan of Jalen Wright and thought he was a massively underrated running back prospect who ended up finishing as my RB2 in the class. This year, the Vols have another running back who I absolutely love and a guy who I think could be a bell cow running back in the NFL in Dylansampson. Sampson was one of the most productive running backs in the country and was the best running back in the SEC in 2024. But in an absolutely loaded running back class, how high will Sampson hear his name called in 2025? That is what we will be discussing in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page where for $5 a month, you guys will be given exclusive access to my in-depth draft guide and big board with over 550 prospects and counting. It is some of the best work that I have put together, and if you enjoy my NFL draft content already, I highly recommend checking it out. Leave a comment on this video and let me know which players you guys would like to see in a future episode, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Dylansampson. Sampson is one of the younger running backs in this draft class at just 20 years old, and he declared for the draft just last week. In 2023, he was the number 2 back behind Jalen Wright, but he showed some solid upside in the limited amount of action he saw. He had 107 carries for 605 yards and 7 touchdowns on the year, which were solid numbers. But as the lead guy in 2024, he was flat out unbelievable and the best running back in the SEC. He had 258 carries for 1,488 yards and 22 touchdowns on the year. And I think when you factor in his age, his lack of a major workload, and his upside, scouts are going to absolutely fall in love with Dylansampson. The first thing that sticks out when watching Sampson is the unreal speed and quickness that he plays with. He is an incredibly shifty running back who displayed a number of jukes and cutbacks in the backfield. He's incredibly shifty at the line of scrimmage, and he has the ability to make guys miss in the backfield before turning it into a big play. But the best part about that is when he gets to the second level. His speed is absolutely electric, and he just flies down the field. He is rumored to run a 4.3 40, and it shows. He had 38 runs of 10 or more yards in 2024, and when he hits that second level, is one of the most impossible players to bring down. We mentioned the ability to make guys miss, but I want to get back to that point. Something I heavily value when evaluating running backs is how shifty are you? Can you juke guys out? Can you force missed tackles consistently? And I genuinely think Sampson has some of the best shiftiness of any back in the class. He forced 70 missed tackles in 2024, and he just knew how to get out of tackles and turn nothing into something. He also displayed fantastic vision, and if he saw a hole open up, he had the ability and quickness to redirect himself, hit the hole, and turn it into a positive gain. I think he's a very smart running back. Sampson has a smaller frame for the running back position, standing at 5'11", 200 pounds, but I think he is a way more physical back than you would expect. He falls forward and he embraces contact at the point of attack. He had 3.6 yards after contact per play in 2024, and I loved that he was able to keep his legs churning, and he was constantly able to create more yards when the play seemed dead. He plays bigger and more physical than his size would lead you to believe, and I think NFL teams are going to absolutely love that about Sampson. There's a lot to like about Sampson, but one thing I think people will worry about is his blocking. He provided next to nothing as an extra blocker, and that's going to hurt his ability to be a 3-down player at the next level. While he does play bigger than his size as a runner, his lack of a big, powerful frame really just showed in the blocking department, and time again, it felt like he was just run over as a blocker. He allowed 7 pressures and a sack as a blocker in 2024 and allowed pressures on 38% of his blocking snaps. That's just not going to fly for Sampson at the next level. I also worry about what Sampson brings as a receiving back. Tennessee asks very little of their running backs in the receiving game. He ran an incredibly limited route tree, and while he shows solid hands and doesn't drop the football very often, I didn't really love what he showed as a route runner, and I think there are going to be questions that come up about that at the next level. Yes, I am a Tennessee fan, and maybe I have a little bit of bias, but I think Dylan Sampson is a pretty special player. His vision, speed, quickness, and ability to run through contact is absolutely fantastic. He does love to bounce runs sometimes to the outside, and that's a note that I do want to make. He sometimes doesn't like to run between the numbers, but I think his upside as a runner as a whole is through the roof. And I think he can develop into more of a pro-style offense type of guy and be a good receiving threat if his route running is tapped into properly. He is my number 4 running back in a loaded class and my number 67 overall prospect. In terms of a scheme fit, I think Sampson will likely start his career off as a rotational back. Maybe a scat back type of player, a guy that could be a change of pace, speed, shifty type of back, until he can show that he can bring more value to the receiving game. I think once he does that, he can and will be a 3-down player, and I would like to see Sampson used in a heavy zone rushing scheme, particularly one that can tap into his ability to get to the outside and make big plays happen around the edge. My player comparison for Dylan Sampson is Buffalo Bills running back James Cook. Cook is a much better receiving back at this point in time, there's no doubt about that. But both Sampson and Cook are smaller backs than what you would like to see, but play well through contact and do a really solid job of making guys miss. They both have blazing speed and are incredibly shifty and can be big play machines at the next level if properly tapped into. Dylan Sampson is a shifty back. He makes guys miss and he plays very well through contact, and he's got great vision on top of that. I think he's an awesome player who is only going to get better at the next level, especially because he is so young. I am a huge fan, and ultimately, I believe that Dylan Sampson will be a 2nd to 3rd round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.